Hi, and welcome to this segment of Brute for Change. I'm Karan Mehta, venture principal here at Green Frontier Capital. We're the leading climate fund in India. And today we have with us Sumedh and Aditya, two of the co-founders of a very visionary company who's trailblazing, literally, the electric cycle segment. Welcome, Sumedh. Welcome, Aditya. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast with me. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much, so I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. So, Aditya, do you want to probably go first? Just give a quick introduction to yourself, your background, etc., and uh, what got you into EMotorad.
Perfect, Karan. Firstly, thank you so much for having us on the show. It's a complete pleasure. Um, just to introduce myself, coming from Indore, tier two, small town, growing up, had dreams and vision of going abroad and working there, and that's how usual middle class dreams are: get a job, go abroad, and I think that's what I did. Did my masters with my now CEO Kunal Gupta in Pune. Got a chance to work in Dubai, Canada. Then one day got a call from him saying, "Hey, you think we should start up something?" And that was my call for destiny with EMotorad. Came back, Kunal, Sumedh, Rajib, and of course we can discuss our story further. Got a chance to start off this company with few of the best co-founders I could imagine to work. And yeah, I think that's about me. Have worked across marketing in different markets. Now had a chance to work and take it forward with EMotorad, and of course adding value wherever we can.
Great. Thanks a lot, Aditya. Sumedh, you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sumedh. I come from similar Maharashtra tier two town, which is like Latur. Started the journey from Latur in 10th, 12th, then did graduation from University of Pune. That's where I got introduced to the cool world of startup business. You should not get into a rat race of getting the best job. Like every aspiration was to get into the best B school, best engineering school, then get into the rat race and get the best pay packages out. That's where my thought process started shaping up in Pune. Was probably the upbringing what we have in tier two town is way different than what you get in tier one. So that was the moment for me to realize a lot of new things. Had my corporate string for 5 6 years before I started the e-motorrad startup with other amazing buddies. Like as Adi mentioned, we are extremely fortunate to have each other backing us whenever required. And yeah, so I guess Pune was the start of the journey where I had that little spark. Let's start something that is way more valuable, and to enjoy this life to the full, you should try new things, not fall into a rat race. That was the thought process I had. And after having a career in mostly in IoT industry, so engineering brain, then the sales skill set, added a lot of things to this company as a founder here. And I was a vendor to these guys before. So Kunal and Rajiv used to work in a startup called On Bikes. Kunal was a co-founder CEO. And that's where I and Kunal started talking each other. Adi I knew through them because Adi and Kunal had a journey before. There is a wonderful episode on Hotstar, Disney Hotstar, on Great Indian Disruptors, and episode 5 definitely describes how we all guys met each other, how we started doing this, and it has a lot of story which we have discussed in that episode. Maybe the viewers can enjoy that episode as well
So,
about you.
uh, that just sounds like something very interesting for them to watch. But you actually got into my next question, which I love, which is great. So I really want to know, right? Kunal, Rajiv, Aditya, Sumit, how did you guys, the four of y'all, get together? Like, of course, Aditya, you said you went to B school with Kunal and you knew him, and he just picks up the phone one day and says that, listen, do you want to join my startup? And Sumit, you said you were like you knew them, you had a business relationship with them, and you decided to be a co-founder with them. It just seems like, compared to a lot of, like, I would say, like, founders who have either worked together or are childhood friends, or they've had some certain bond, but it just seems like the four of y'all are from four very different walks of life, and today are actually building something very remarkable at Emotorad. So I'm very curious to know how that journey is, and you don't have to give me the full Hotstar episode, but give me the gist of it. How was that journey? How did it start?
I
Adi
think
can describe. He's the
I,
storyteller.
I think I can take it halfway, and from there on, no better person than Sumit to explain. I think it started in 2014, 2013 for me when I met Kunal for the first time. And Kunal was this shy introvert, and I've seen him transition into the man he is today. And somebody I think everyone in the company looks up to. So we became friends, and one good part about Kunal was he had this banya brain with him. Also, the youngest Indian poker champion, but very shy. I mean, back in the days when I look back, it was he was a very different person. But that Banya Buddhi would always have him come to me and say, and we were this last benchers in the college, not doing anything but partying, but also topping the class somehow. I don't know how we did manage to do that. And that's when we did our first startup, and it was about renting out two-wheelers to our own fellow colleagues. So Kunal and I both had motorbikes, but we were one day walking from the college, realized that boss, both of us have motorbikes, and we are walking because our friends have taken it for the dates and dinners and whatnot. So we realized we'll start renting out our bikes, and we scaled it up to 84 bikes. It got acquired by another big startup, which Kunal later joined as a co-founder. Me being into the rat race, got an opportunity as in placements to go to Dubai. And I was like, boss, I'm not leaving this opportunity. So I went there. And that's when I got to see his progress happen in the world of startup. I was really looking at him grow, looking at it and thinking, yeah, boss, there's so much I'm missing out on because his growth rate was amazing. And I would get in touch with the likes of Rajib, and we became friends. And but we were very casual party friends, kind of. We'd never discuss business. And now when we meet and discuss, talk about it, we both are super business minded, but we never spoke about anything work whenever we met. And I think that's when this equation came through. And one day I got the call, but until then, I think Sumedh had already entered the equation, and I'll leave it to Sumedh to explain how he got into it.
So, as I mentioned earlier, Kunal was my client. I was a vendor to Kunal. He was running a bike rental startup called On Bikes. He was the COO, and there they never wanted an IoT solution as per their demand, because the vehicle were not getting stolen. So basically, why you need an IoT then? You need to track when there is something going wrong. Then I started pitching ideas, boss. You can start earning money, and as a Bania guy, that thing actually excited him. I said, I can make money. Then that's how I entered into his office, and I said, boss, you can see all the people I see on the weekend are overspeeding. 60 kmph is the road speed. You can start putting 500 rupee a charge, and 10 incidences covers your the cost of the IoT device. He was amazed. I said, nobody has sold me IoT devices the way you have. Let's start putting IoT devices in the vehicle. Later, it became a safety and security as well, because business started scaling and you started requiring to track the bikes. But back then, that was not the need when they were very small. And
Okay.
I scaled with them. They at point they were operating more than 10,000 vehicles on the road approximately. So that was the kind of a scale what On Bikes was operating that particular point of time. So then that vendor client relation became friendship relation. I and him started talking. Rajiv was heading the operations back then, and that's how I got introduced to those people.
Karan, this is the nicer way of putting it up, frankly. What I've heard from stories is basically people would just run away when Sumedh entered their office because he was so like if he came down to your office, he's going to sell you something and leave. So, so I think Kunal and Rajiv knew the person who's going to sell things.
That's how we guys met actually.
Awesome. So Kunal seems to be like the central character, right? He seems to be the person who's connected to Aditya, connected to Sumedh, connected to Rajiv, and sort of got all four of you all together and to actually build this. Uh, now that was a really great like introduction to the four of y'all. I only hope that Kunal is not CFO of the company, given that he's got this poker like addiction. But if he's a champion, then I guess that's not a problem. But um, I wanted to understand, right? So when of course you all said that, look, let's start something together. They were Kunal and Rajiv were doing something with on bikes. You all both had your own careers, which were doing fairly well, but then you all took the plunge and started EMotorad. So what was the motivation? What made you all think that, listen, this is a problem worth solving and we are the right people to actually solve this problem?
You never know whether you are the right people or wrong. unless you try. But definitely the first question is, definitely, is it something worth spending the life upon, was the question which got answered at the first place. See, I always believed of the fundamental factor is one thing which is not in your hand is time, and the time passed by cannot be taken back. And putting 5-10 years of crucial time, because after in your 40s you cannot expect you putting 16 hours in the business. Your health will not allow, your family life will not allow. If it has to be done, it has to be done in your late 20s or early 30s. That was the very clear thought process what I personally at least had back then. And when this particular thought process came here, just imagine for last 70 years of automobile, there is no evolution in the tech except the two scooter players trying to modify or gamify the mobility game. There was no revolution as per se to deal with Indian kind of a scenario. When I say India kind of a scenario is, we are the most populated city on the planet today,
Yep.
1.5 billion, 1.45 billion people, and population density is also not very less. Population density is also very high. So biggest of the biggest infrastructure of the world has not seen or attempted to solve the mobility need of such kind of a population. And the kind of per capita income what your country has. So in that particular situation, the solution to the problem becomes further challenging. You can connect cities, but ultimately intra-city problem will still be multi-scaled from now. You just imagine the kind of birth rate what India has. It's a phenomenal birth rate what we have. Imagine your Indian infrastructure in 10 years, how it will be. Whether the Indian current infrastructure will suit it or not, how the problem solution will come. All of those things were puzzling around, and I was already dealing in a space of IoT devices where major application was micromobility and ride hailing startups like Bounce, Ola, Uber of the world.
This was in
So
2000, in the 18, 19, I assume, right?
no. This was
17,
back in 2016, 14, 16. That
Okay.
16 a start you can consider. 2016 start. So I also had multiple opportunities on table, but I chose the one which gave me the maximum, what you said, kick. You can use that word. So I thought that let's solve this ride hailing, ride startup, or like IoT. Where can we solve these particular problems? And I had my linear progression towards. Then I started joining the tier one automobile companies where applications were in EV. So my thought process was coming towards the mobility slowly, not at the start of the day. And when this kind of an opportunity Rajib brought on the table, he being the founder boss, I have been into China for last couple of years. And see, this is what China has been thinking about. And I really thought that particular point of time, so you're 2 decades behind what's happening in the world. Highest selling automobile in the world is not two-wheeler, it is not three-wheeler, it is not four-wheeler, it is electric cycle. That kind of surprised me. And then you start digging the question why. Then you say, understand ki boss, probably the licensing and the road infrastructure is very expensive in Europe. Then you understand why. Why is it expensive? Then you go further down. You say, boss, metro rail infrastructure is enough. Then why an electric cycle is required? So you go deeper, 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 and you start getting a lot of answers to your questions, right? So definitely that was the time when you thought, yes, this problem is something I can spend my next 5-10 years of my life solving it. Whether you are right or wrong, how would you know unless you attempt? So that's how the journey started.
Nice. And Aditya, do you want to add anything to that? Or
Yeah, I think
on
for
how did
most of us,
EMotorad sort of like come about? Was it always a thought that, listen, we're going to get into micro mobility and we're going to build these electric cycles?
yeah, I think day one when I came in, it was almost clear on the forefront that we were trying to tackle two elephants in the room, and I think that got me sold very well, right? Like one was that was EV is going to become big, but India is not having the bandwidth to adopt to the charging infra with the space that EV are going to grow. So how will EV grow in the first place? And I think for us, charge anywhere model and take your battery and use it like charge it like a mobile phone was something that was actual real solution to a big problem that stood there, right? And I
Hmm.
think on the second note, today also not spoken enough about is the service infra. I mean, your mechanics are very well versed to repair IC engine vehicle anywhere you get stuck, right? But that is not the case with EV. So for us, having this 24/7 support and then being able to service anything remotely was something that was a technology that we really believed in. And I thought these two problem statements are the root of why EV might not just grow into the country with the pace it needs to. And I think today also when you see we stay in the tier ones and still see so less of charging options. Imagine what happens in tier two and then further down tier threes and the small towns and villages of the country. And I think that's where we want our product to penetrate into. Fortunately for us, the product that we ventured into, like Sumit said, is the highest selling product across the globe, and we saw opportunity to build for the world from India. I mean, enough of us speaking about, hey, India is going to rival the next big country across and be the manufacturing. We need to start working there, and I think the rapid pace of startups are the ones who can take on the biggest manufacturing countries in the world heads on. So I think it's time that startups do venture. It's time that investors do invest in it. I mean, kudos to the investors who came on board, and you being one of those, and actually believed in the fact that okay, great manufacturing companies can be scalable, can be investable in the VC model as well.
Okay. So that's a very interesting point that you brought up, Aditya, and I want to just go a little bit like over there, is that you saw the opportunity that India can manufacture for the world, and we're very native to cycles, like as a country too. Though we don't see enough like of them in at least the tier one and
Yeah.
metros, right? But I think post COVID, that trend has also changed quite a bit. Uh, where the purchase of at least premium cycles has gone up
Yep.
significantly. So, when you say that build for the world, like in India, how did you sort of convince customers to also buy into that story? Because India was not known as a strong manufacturing powerhouse, or to be able to, we knew that we could give out quality, but at least to get customers convinced on that listen, we can give out quality. How has that journey sort of been for you from the time you start to where you are today?
I think over a period of time, we realized that that problem has not been eradicated completely because customers in foreign lands still look at us, the clients still look at us and say, hey, you really think you can manage to build a bike that would possibly do great on European roads? And I think now we have enough and more examples to tell them, hey, we are the manufacturers for XYZ brands. We are the manufacturer. Our bikes have done great in Japan. Our bikes have won so and so awards. And I think, but day one was completely different. And I think that day, telling our story and making them believe in the fact that, hey, out of this small little facility that we had, we actually want to build one of the best bikes. Fortunately for us, I think the experience that the other three founders bought in from the auto industry was super valuable. We did not go out to market a bike that was value for money only. It was super premium quality and then value for money. So for us, we were trying to build a world-class quality and giving it to Indian consumer. I believe early on in the Indian market, everyone laughed at us saying a bigger brand and competing brands, big names, a bigger brand name is selling the bike at less than half your price. Why would anyone end up purchasing yours? I think that was a differentiator because then people started assuming us to be a foreign brand because, of course, we did not have the marketing dollar. So they would sometimes buy it and think, hey, it must be a German brand because the name sounds like that. But whenever people went and checked for a bigger brand name at let's say 23-24,000 price point, they would look at our bike and say, "What is special in this that's priced at 55,000 rupees?" And I think that's how our start happened. And we also believe that moving from a premium to mass segment is possible. Moving other way around is super difficult. So I think our initial placement did help us penetrate deeper.
Uh, Sumedh, on GTM specifically, right? And I know that this is something which you've taken care of quite closely. Uh, this conversation on like, listen, let's go for a premium bike initially and then move down. Talk to me about your product journey, because like I know your first product was a bit more premium and then you launched something which is a little more mass. And I want to just like talk about how did the how did you all manage also to transition that cost curve and bring it down to the point where, listen, you can actually make a good motor, like a good like cycle, at a very like affordable like price point. Do you want to just like probably talk
Sure,
about?
sure. So I'll break this discussion into two parts. One is the GTM strategy, and the other part is achieving the cost target, what crazy cost target what we had achieved. So GTM part was very simple. Anything you want to get enter into, you just enter and you try to understand was what is the competitive landscape looking like, what is the competition trying to do, what is the competition trying to achieve, and where you have a 5 decade kind of a player sitting who is sitting on a pile of a cash, who is sitting on a larger distribution network where I'm still 3 years away from now, and all of those parts were not in our control. If competition is senior, it is senior. How do you tackle with it is the only question. And we found out the gap. they were trying to play around an electric cycle segment just like they were trying to do with normal cycle, push bikes, wherein these two things are completely different. Managing electric cycle business is not everybody's cup of tea. There is a lot of embedded electronics involved. You cannot just change the bottom bracket of a push bike and keep it into another cycle. Like that, you can't do with the motor. You need to be super critical while identifying your vendors. You need to be super critical while developing your BMS. You need to be super critical in developing your battery pack. So these things we identified, and we understood going premium is going to solve 95% of the problem what we have. When you try to go and put the same product at the similar price point, at that particular point of time, also user is going to choose the known one. User is not going to choose you just because you are having the similar price point. You need to be drastically cheaper if you really want an acceptance and break the ice in front of an user's mind. And either that strategy you go and continuously bleed, which we didn't have a VC money back then. We were for longest period of time bootstrap. The other way around looked like promising because the way we go 2.5 times premium, then the questions start asking like, boss, why are you premium? Like, what are you different? Then you come into an answering solution than a defending solution. And then when you start answering, they start registering that particular thing in their brain. And like Adi said, quality was something which we never compromised on day one. And you cannot market quality. No brand can. You can only give experience of the quality to an user. And that's what we believed in. And we started scaling. People started accepting us. Any which way, anything which is above 25,000 rupee, only A class of the society is going to look at. So affordability was not really a question. A person who is willing to spend 25,000, 30,000 rupees on a competition brand definitely has additional 20,000 bucks in his pocket. It is only the question, do you have an art to take it out?
Hmm.
So we definitely had an art to take that 20 additional thousand rupee from his pocket, and that's where we got established in the business. Competition tried to do the reverse engineering on a premium product back then for 2 years. The engineering brains and the manufacturing facilities, what we were trying to develop, were cracking a price point which the world was not aware of. People were still trying to crack a premium bike, which we had taken 1.5 year to establish. And in that 1.5 year, the engineering team was the part B of the discussion comes in cracking the price point. What we understood is the operating price point of a push bike in the country of national average is sitting around 5 to 6,000 rupees. Then you consider 30-35% of delta onto it for a manufacturing cost. Consider 30 to 40% is the distribution and the other expenses what an people and incur. So Indian ecosystem was designed and developed in a way to make cheaper bikes. So you have cost advantage on day one, the way Indian ecosystem is working. Now the second problem what exactly you encounter in here is quality. The push bikes are not supposed to the conditions what an e-bike is supposed to. 25 kilometer of top speed, 80-85 kg of a rider weight, then the braking, then the movement components, everything needs to be of good quality. Then only you can sustain an electric bike. So 1.5 year of investment was put forward in the developing supply chain. Boss, you're already there. You just have to push another 15-20% for yourself to achieve the cost and quality. Cost you have already achieved. You have done one wonderful job. Otherwise, the cycle industry in the country would have not been established by now. So India had a cost advantage on mechanical components and electronic components. We had advantage because of our international business, what we were exporting to. So that next 1.5 year of journey post launch of the Desire series, what we call EMX, the superstar model of our company of establishment, then comes the great launch of X Factor, which disrupted the Indian price point of 25,000 rupees. And we are exactly sitting a year later from that launch. And I am glad the competition couldn't make it up to the point. And definitely from here, another story is getting cooked for the last 1 year, which will come in less than 3 quarters from, sorry, 3 weeks from now, which will further give us a competitive advantage.
Wow. Do you want to maybe just talk about that a little bit? Because I have some questions on the X Factor, but what is this interesting thing that you're gonna do you want to maybe just give us a snippet of what's gonna come in the next 3 weeks?
So we have been operating on a stealth mode for a very long time. I can just tease with the technology. We are going to come up with the first, most efficient and smart drivetrain for an e-bike, which will change the experience of a rider, the way he is going to ride the bike or the way he is going to interact with the bike. So the technology teaser is going to happen in most likely like first week of March. And post that, the evolution of that tech will continue. So putting together pieces for the tech in India is very difficult, because in India there are giants operating in a service trade. You have Bosch, you have Continental, you have Delphi, you have OEMs like Daimler in the country, and everyone is putting their research and development center. And while you try to say, boss, I'm trying to innovate on an e-cycle, everybody just laughs at you. Boss, I'm working on a Daimler, I'm working with Bosch, Brady, I'm working on a next gen EV four-wheeler. What, why am I going to even touch e-cycle for my life? So convincing that is a very tough job for the tech geniuses in the country.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have put forward a very good tech team in Bangalore, which has been operational for the last 8 months now.
Yeah.
And soon we will
Actually,
get that.
like I'm also going to come back to that, right? Because that is you're like I think the both of you are just sort of eating into my ideas. I wasn't gonna uh like I'm supposed to give you all pressure, but you all are giving me the pressure of asking all the questions. But just to go back to the X Factor, no, uh the the entire cycle market, like you said, today in India, and like I know the initial launch of the vehicle that you all had was more for an international product, and you always still like also like selling that in India. But uh, when you if someone had to just like break that up, how much is e-cycles today of that total market, and how much of that is actually e-motorad, uh, and why is it that that edge is there like over the competition with your products?
I think very interesting question here. I'll just give you few data points here. Currently, the overall market share online is 56% dominated by EMotorad since March last year. And
This
of
is for
course,
e-cycles.
this is just for electric cycles. Compared to normal cycles, I'm sure Sumedh will give you a better clarity because there is too much segmentation there. When it comes to offline as well, currently close to 50 to 55 to 60% market share is in there in online segment, offline segment as well. So I think the dominance in category is there, and there are competition from the biggest players that have kicked in. So there is a company which is a subsidiary of Reliance. There's a company that's a subsidiary of Tata. There's so a big heads-on competition has come. But on your so before I hand over to Sumedh, Karan, very interesting to see. I have seen Sumedh have turned out to be a genius when it comes to competitive strategy, and I would always often ask him, "Are you a student of game theory?" Because every time competition has tried to do something, Sumedh has taken it, and I don't know, it has worked out for us, might not happen for all the viewers. But let's say when we picked up premium segment, suddenly competition realized the reason we are growing so fast is because of quality of product, and maybe that works. So they started innovating there. And next thing they knew, by the time they were about to launch, we came out and crashed the prices, and the X Factor was launched. And we were like, hey, e-motorad bikes, the premium bikes are now available at a much affordable price. And by the time now they are able to crack that, we are ready with launching the tech. So every time they are about to take one step up, I think the kind of steps that we have taken is completely different. So while somebody came out and said, hey, during Diwali, we're going to decrease the price, which all the competition did, I think we were the only brand which said that, hey, we're going to increase the price. And the impact came because all the dealership knew that, 15th onwards, the price are increasing. They loaded up our material. So they had less cash flow remaining for the competition product to be loaded up. And I think all these strategies, I don't know how, but it panned out so well for us over a period of time.
Wow. Yeah, no, like actually when he was explaining the whole GTM, I was gonna ask him that, listen, I wish like I was the fly on the wall in that room when the four of y'all were discussing ki hum log, which price point do we launch the vehicle at? Because I'm sure that discussion would have been very, very like, animated and interesting. But but yeah, Sumedh, do you want to probably just take over from where like Aditya said in terms of what is the market and what is e-cycles? How's that growing? Uh, 50% market share right now for market, 50% plus market share on online and offline for e-motorad. How is that sort of panning out? Where do you sort of see the entire competition sort of moving, like also with you? If we can just talk about the market a little bit.
Sure. So cycle market is huge in the country, Karan. You probably will go out of the guesses if I ask you to keep guessing it. It's more than 35 million bikes a year.
35 million bikes a
It's
year. Okay.
yeah, it's crazy. It includes the toddler. The largest business share is held by the black cycle. If you remember, the 29-inch, a classic black cycle used to come. That's the largest bicycle business. Close to, I can tell you, 3 to 4 million is the just government purchases, just for the distribution to the tier two, tier three, tier fours of the world. Then there is a toddler segment as well. As I told you, India has the highest birth rate probably in the country. I'm not sure of the other stats of the other countries, but surely we are having ramping up the birth rate. So when you have that kind of a birth rate, the toddler segment is never going to go down. It is going to go increase only. So children and the kids segment, this both segment also is very significantly high in the country. And when it comes to the fitness pro, that's where the business gets skewed towards the left. The right side is completely driven by the necessity led purchases. Like a watchman in a society, you still see today him cycling and pedaling. You don't see him driving an Activa. It's not probably he will afford it or not. It's probably it is a want to. He has a cheaper alternative available to the commute. And the distance of the commute, if you see longer distance of the commute, still taken care by the IC engine today, slowly shifting to EV. So bicycle business is huge. Roughly around 600 K bikes a year is the premium bicycle segment. Oh,
Okay.
sorry, 300K bicycles. 300K bicycles a year is the premium bicycle segment, which is sitting in a price point of, let's say, 15 to 20,000 rupees.
And that's less
And
than 1% of the market right now.
or 2%, less than 2%, 1% of the market you can consider. 1-2% is typical the market, that particular price point, because obviously this kind of a price point is only afforded by the top two tier of the society. Simple solution as that. But if you see an electric cycle, it analogy doesn't fit in exactly here. The reason is, for example, let's say there are 7 to 8 million households in the country who are above the income line, for example, this highest per capita income of the country, I'm saying. Probably in their houses also, you'll not find a premium bicycle because they don't find value to it. And there's a value conscious buyer. Price conscious will not be the right word, but value conscious buyer. He doesn't see a value of a bicycle for worth rupees 6,000 and let's say worth rupees 20,000 rupee. So a lot of tier two, tier three, where heavy cash positive balances are sitting, that they still don't use credit cards. There's 3% of the country using credit cards. So you just understand positive cash flows. They are not buying the product because they don't see the value. That's where electric cycle ka potential magically turns up very big. You start pulling out the chunk from that 6,000 rupee ka market bicycle as well. Because right now he has a buying capacity of 25,000 to 30,000 rupee a product, where he will be able to utilize this particular product for 7 to 8 years.
Hmm.
Because when kid, let's say 10, 11, 12-year old, if you are able to give him an e-cycle, his mobility till 17 and 18 is sorted, unless he moves to a bigger town where he will pursue his higher education and eventually buy an electric scooter or an electric motorcycle or a normal Activa. So until then, his problems are taken care. And that is a really bigger use case. So today, I believe awareness is the single largest enemy sitting on the table, which is putting the haircut to the time. The moment this awareness start exploding in the country, then I believe the real unlock of the TAM will happen. And as Adi was mentioning, there are bigger subsidiaries of bigger giants of the corporates in the India are joining the race. I'm sure the market building will become easy.
Yeah. How do you keep your leadership position now that you guys are like sort of leading the pack? How do you maintain and keep your leadership position?
I believe it's very simple. You stay close to the consumer and you win. If you stay close to the competition, then you get into a competition. But if you stay close to the consumer, you win. I believe we are on the ground always. Even today, I spend my almost 6 to 8 days on ground every month. And that is something which I do not forget no matter what. And I believe similarly, everyone from the organization at critical positions spends time on ground. You spend more time towards consumer listening to his voice, you will end up winning. I'll tell you, such a small value addition in a product you will never imagine can delight a consumer. I'll explain you. You have a battery outside the frame because you want to charge it anywhere. You cannot keep the battery inside the frame. So you have a battery outside the frame. Now, when you have a battery outside the frame, where you will place the bottle holder? Bottle holder is generally placed on the bottom tube.
Yeah.
There the battery is sitting. Then where will you place the bottle holder? Because riders, where they are traveling, they wanted to put water bottles when they are, for example, traveling for 15-20 kilometers. And such a small insight we incorporated and that delighted consumer. There's such a small insight, small changes, probably saddle, probably brake pads, probably the ride ergonomics, probably the saddle post. So such small things in a product doesn't take huge cost. You can do it immediately. You're not carrying a 6 months inventory or something. You can keep doing it. Plus informative displays. Like, can I put 2, 3 more information which is solving the life of a consumer? So how does the tech idea came? Just we were not falling into a rat race. Everyone is going tech. Just put forcefully tech into a bike. We heard our consumers very well, loud and clear. We started noting down everything. We started putting the charts, give us what is practically possible and which is economically feasible. We listed those features down. We created the feature bucket list. It should not be just a feature factory, right? You should start creating that bucket list. We started doing the customer clinics. I believe the time as a brand we have spent with the consumer is the highest in the segment. I'm saying that's what which has kept us relevant so far.
And I
And the
think it's of execution too, Sumit. So just sorry to interrupt you, Sumit, but I really believe in the fact that the same time might come from the experience of a sales team in a corporate, but then that going through decision making in a corporate and then finally getting approved and executed is a very long journey. Whereas for a
100%.
startup, it is basically Sumit deciding this needs to be done. It's top priority for the team because he had a first-hand experience with a customer. Just to give you a start here, Karan, I think the e-bike market 2018-19 was projected to grow at a 10% CAGR in India. It has grown on the upwards of 20%. And fortunately for us, we've grown on the upwards of 200%. And the reason is because we ended up taking the maximum market share. So for us, holding on to leadership position is a secondary challenge. What we are actually looking is for attempting to make the pie bigger and actually getting more people, like Sumit said, aware about the industry and get them interested in actually considering buying this product.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely true. Uh, I I just want to talk about your tech team a little bit, and I know um, one of the critical challenges that you touched upon today is that, listen, you have all these people, tech brains, who are working in electric mobility. Let me just put that like as a broad, or just the automobile segment, who are working with Daimler, working with Bosch, working with with Siemens, and the really good, I would say, blue chip companies. But you all manage to attract talent from there and actually pull in people from that industry, and you all are then tagged as the cycle company or the electric cycle company, right? How is it that you all are managing to actually get that talent? And you recently got Gaurav Gupta, right? So who was heading Royal Enfield. So uh, how did you get someone who was making extremely premium, say, motorcycles to come in and join you guys when you all are building like electric cycles? So I'm quite interested to hear about that story.
I guess Adi should definitely take this question. He has been the one who has been playing the role of bringing the best talent at the best possible, what do you say, price or cost to us from day one.
Nice, nice.
No, I think Karan here, I get a lot of credit, but to be very frank and honest, I think the kind of culture that we've developed, and just to say, four of us come from such small town cities that we actually believed in and had experiences that made us believe that we want to create a workspace where people, when they wake up on a Monday morning, they should be like, yeah, it's Monday. And I think that was the whole bottom line of the culture, right? Even when you look at people coming from big corporates and like in fact we don't even pay them as much as they get paid in other companies, right? Like, so why would somebody take a pay cut, come and work for a company that's possibly way smaller when it comes to the size of the company? And I think the critical role here is what kind of a job is he going to do and how much passion do you have and how do you portray it? And I think for every founder that's listening to us today, I think getting an investor on board is tough, but getting your first few people to join you is way tougher. And I think that's the role Rajib played brilliantly. He got Sumedh on board, he got Kunal on board, he got me on board, and I think then he left it on to us to go out. And the only idea we had was, let's bring in, like, skills can be bought, you can train people, but let's bring in people who are passionate enough. And fortunately, in our journey, we realized then we also needed people who are passionate and have experience. Now, when we go out and find them, I think the only thing we can sell them is we're not the kind of people who will go out and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is our vision. We actually get together on the board and then decide what a vision, what vision we should see from here. We actually let so much decision making happen at the end of our leadership. Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense for us to get in people and then tell them how to do their job, or what their job should look like. So I think those are the things that excite people, right? And then quickly, world, like as soon as this thing started happening in the tech industry of EV side, word started spreading that, hey, this is how the kind of culture we have, and a lot of people joined in. I think tech was the quickest team that we formulated so far, and I think this culture thing has been emphasized by so many big people and then not talked upon in the middle segment at all. And especially in Indian companies and startup worlds, you'll see culture has been a point that gets raised so often when a company starts scaling. And I think that's one thing we really want to hold on very tight to, and want to say that the only bottom line we want to keep is basically, if I wake up on a Monday and I don't feel like I just want to go, it's Monday. Yeah, it's Monday. I think everything changes from there. So we really are holding on to that bottom line.
So it's the culture that you're are building, which is like attracting the talent as well, right? That's amazing to hear. I'm just going to switch gears a little bit and start moving a little bit into your fundraise journey. Uh, you all started raising like money at a pretty tough time for startups. Initially, it was good that you all were bootstrapped to actually get things off the ground to a certain level where I think the story could have been bought by investors. But I think uh, what early stage investors like is scalability, and I'm sure you all have heard that like a number of times. Uh, but you all also are an OEM business. So how is it that you all managed to convince the early investors to back you? And how has the fundraise journey been for you? You also recently raised like a round, and what are the challenges that you all sort of faced through that process?
I think Sumedh, Basant Uncle's story to kickstart with the first check would be something that uh, you can tell very well.
So I believe, Adi, you should tell that story when you wanted to join EMotorad and Basant Uncle was the one who was saying, "Boss, are you mad? Are you going to sell electric cycle for 35, 40,000 rupees?" And then he became the first investor in the company. You should pick that up.
So I think one of our mentors, Karan, got and I connected with him saying, "Hey, this is the opportunity. What do you think about it?" And he's like, "Adi, what makes you think that a 50,000 rupees cycle would be bought by anyone, regardless? I have so much money. I'm never going to purchase it." And from there to he actually coming out and forcing us to take his first check, because we were
And he
bootstrapping
was
and we
one
were,
of your mentors.
yeah. In fact,
The angel investor.
so he did become our angel later on, but he was one of the mentors that we all looked up to, and we all got into discussion. It was pre-COVID times that we had this startup group where Sumedh, Rajib, me, Kunal, all of them got a chance to speak to him regularly on random ideas. And this was this small group that just after, during the lockdown got started with a couple of entrepreneurs. And I think that is the time when he came out and he actually forced us to take the check, saying, "Hey, I'm helping you so much in terms of," he has been big in manufacturing, and he's like, "If you're taking this help, I want to be a part of this to take a small check from me." He got onboarded, and I think GFC onwards, Sumit, possibly you can tell the story of how fundraise has been.
So when we took the angel check that particular point of time, we realized the value of money. Everything. See, value of every resources is important. Just not money. Value of human capital, the cash, the right business idea. Everything is a critical resource. And we never had an idea of burning money because we all four came from a very different family background, and we all came from like at least Kunal came from a business background, but he was not a businessman himself just because previous to this startup that particular point of time, uh, what you can consider particularly is burning money was never into the culture from even though his earlier startup was VC funded. So that particular way, why you need money was the first question. Like if you're able to manage the business well, why you need money? And as you ask the question of scale, that particular point of time you start thinking how do you scale. And at that particular point of time you start checking the each and every resource column, and then you say, boss, yes, capital is required not to burn money but to scale. You need certain capex to be done, you need certain investments in the market, you need brand to be built. And that particular point of time we started looking for the fund, and exactly where Sandeep and Kunal got in touch. Sandeep has taken every venture to embarrass Kunal. Boss, Kunal was the first entrepreneur I met. I approached him stating, boss, I am willing to invest, and Kunal said, I don't need your money. He has taken every opportunity to embarrass Kunal, and I'm not going to leave this opportunity. So he reached out to Kunal some time back before we started the conversation. That particular point of time, the phase I mentioned, why you need money,
I
and then
remember
there
the
was
story.
you need money.
And then it came to us via like a banker. And Sandeep was livid. He was like, how the hell did Kunal not tell me? But yeah.
Obviously, Kunal was embarrassed. How will he reach out, boss? I said no.
Okay.
So that story started. We started realizing the right partners, and I'll just put not just the cash as a resource. I'll start putting as a right mentors to the business who think from a different perspective, who understand business way differently. When you're involved into a business, you see e-cycle, you see consumer. When you're outside the business, you start looking at what profit margins you're operating at, what is the cash flow which is required into the business, and other aspects of the business, obviously. And that's where the journey with Sandeep started, the Green Frontier Capital. He started explaining us what is a climate tech fund. I was hearing it for the first time. It was, what is a climate tech fund? Is there such kind of a fund which is available in the country, or in let's say in what you say US as well? And why are they investing into a climate tech fund? What is this particular space? Are we really directly impacting all of those calculations? You are doing it, but you don't do it right, particularly on that particular moment of the time. And I believe exactly that's where the mentorship of Sandeep started, because this particular business can be looked from this particular eye as well. And that's where Green Frontier Capital and EMotorad got married November 2022. And that particular time, it is very special to us because we had cooked a food called X Factor, and it was just was about to get launched. It was just about to get tested, and we required that capital desperately back then, because you can make prototypes, but to go to scale journey, it's a very difficult and different journey. You fail 5 times, 6 times, and
Yeah.
who will pay for the failure? What you commit as an organization.
Yeah.
I believe the right investing partners are required to support you and back your vision. That too in a very cash heavy invested business like an OEM.
Yeah.
And Sandeep posted us. That's where the X Factor crucial launch happened in the country. 18th of January, 19th of January 2023. We made utilization the fund what we got in the November, just previous year, I believe. So yes, that was the journey with Green Frontier Capital. And when it comes to raising the larger round, which we had raised $20 million, debt and equity putting together, so that journey was also phenomenal. That was also taken when the fund market was considered to be a winter in funding market that particular time. What I can put my two thoughts here is, number one is, if your business is scalable, and if you can generate enough wealth for all the stakeholders, right from your vendors, right from your clients, right from your employees, and to your investors and to yourself, if there is enough pie available for everyone in the business and yet it is scalable, then why not? Then the question is, why not? Then you are only looking for the right partners. So deep inside us, this conviction was every time there. We have touched no cash situation at least 3 times in the journey. But if you would have looked upon us at that particular point of time, also, our energy was never down. Our info was never down. We were looking at this as a bad time. It's fine. There are good days, there are bad days. But when it came to the investing journey, deep down we were very confident. And everyone has a different appetite. Not everyone goes for an engineering college, right? Every human has a different path. So similarly, every fund has a different story to sell. Every fund will look at a different attributes. You should start looking at what attribute matches. Like Green Frontier Capital was climate tech, and for PGP it was scale journey. And they really saw the scale into the business. They came, they saw the early signs of technology which we already had started a year back. They saw all of those particular thought process, and I believe at the end of the day, it is founding team,
Yeah.
because ideas do pivot. Lot of startup businesses, if you see, right from Amazon, Disney, or any successful businesses, if you see, they have done pivots multiple times. Google, I don't think they would have thought of it as a video as a platform. And today, see, look at YouTube, probably. So I believe every business have to go through pivot and structural changes. So ultimately, business definitely yes, but at the same time, to concluding factor to an investment is the strong founding team, and not just the founders, founding team, who are the core people behind the business. And that way, we were very lucky. Not just four of us, Kunal, Rajiv, Adi, me, but the founding team, like you mentioned, Gaurav. There was Kapil. Back then, there was Anjali when Anjali was in touch with Sandeep. So a lot of people, to name few. I'll be fall short of words for those people, but that founding team has taken the load on their shoulders, I believe, and that's where Adi is very vocal about culture, and that played a role, I believe.
And I think we were very fortunate to also, Sumedh, have the right set of people come in to prepare us for the next step, right? And I'll call it great fortune only, Karan, because I think when the first set of investors came, they set us up at the manufacturing arm, right? Had that not happened, I think Sandeep wouldn't have looked at us, or GFC wouldn't have looked at us and said, ki, hey, you can actually make an impact on the climate, right? So we had that kind of a progress come through where they came in and said, okay, now Sandeep's part with us was to look at different from a very different aspect to actually, I mean, his background. He came out and he told us how to look at our numbers all together and how to present it to the next investor to come in. When they came in, this value add was so much important that actually it made sense for them to come. Now that they are here, they've put us on this journey to actually go out and look at the world and say, hey, we can do so many things in house. We can actually go out and develop this technology even further. So I think for us at every aspect, whatever happened was super fortunate to. But like Sumit rightly said, the kind of team that we have in place, I sometimes look at them and I feel fortunate to come and work with them every day.
Yeah, yeah. No, like I'm reminded of um uh this anecdote which is usually like quoted. There was this king uh who was and I'm forgetting his name, but uh whenever he would speak to his general, and his general would hire like a colonel or would bring in like another general to the ranks of the army, uh like of course the general would be like, hey, listen, this one has fought so many wars, etc., and like conquered this and conquered that, etc. But uh and the king would ask this one question, but is he lucky? So there's always, so I was just reminded of that. uh I just want to wind up and wrap up a little bit. Two, three things that I want to just probably to also just like understand from you all is uh how many cycles on the road today, and how do you all measure the impact of the products that you all put out to the market?
So I think the exact numbers, precise numbers would change as we speak, I'm sure. But Sumit, would you like to run through the?
We can go with an approximate. We don't have to go with an exact number, but yeah.
So I think so far we've done close to 90,000 odd e-bikes across the
Wow.
globe. Uh,
Wow. Okay.
and in this 3-year journey, I think the growth rate has been phenomenal too. Last year alone, it has been upward of 45,000. And I think the previous 2 years have been a slow journey. The first year was, of course, just the start, and we actually trying to find our PMF. I think for us, the growth, the impact actually is calculated in different fashions. So one is definitely the amount of fuel savings that we do. One is the number of trees that we save. We also see the tons of CO2 emission that happens. How many number of kilometers are traveled on bike is also getting tracked now with the technology getting infused. So we are now trying to actually map across how much livelihood is getting impacted, and on a truer, broader level, not to just speak about it. And you would not see us even communicate about it on different platforms. But this is one characteristic that's written down in our office every time, so that the employees feel proud about and actually know that all that little thing that they do, it could be writing a content or designing something or actually working on a gear system, all that is making that bigger impact. And I think that getting reminded every day really puts you to work back again. And all those afternoon naps that you look forward to after having a tight lunch, I think that is where the motivation again kicks in. Sumit, if you can give the number for the CO2, if you have it with you,
So we
that
actually
It
have it
was
like on our
top of
website.
my mind.
But yeah.
yeah,
I
I
don't
think
have that number
GFC
top of
is these are all Sandeep's way of us now measuring it in a different
Yep.
fashion.
Nice. Uh, Maybe just the last question before we wrap up. How do you all measure, who are your individual role models?
Sumit, would you like to take that up?
No, he can't
So
answer
I
for
believe
you. Yeah, you need to,
No, of course.
you're basically buying time, but
No, so
Once
I think there are so many people you look up to for so many different things,
that's
right? And
fine.
it keeps
Yeah.
changing. Like you can meet a small entrepreneur, like this guy who came in, and I was also impressed by him because he jugadified his business into now providing t-shirts for the company, right? Like he's a design student who started his venture, somehow pitched it to us, went to the locals, and got it at the best price just so that it gets accepted in this company. So I think, of course, over a period of time, you grow and different people change. But for me, I think the most impact, if I look forward to it, has been Elon Musk, and the only reason has been because and not because what he's achieved, and he's going to Mars, and of course put an electric car on the road that drives by itself, all those magical things. But I think the kind of problems that he had, I don't know if it's even the right word to say, but he had the courage to possibly take up as a challenge in the times when people wouldn't even imagine of doing it, and actually venturing his life into it and delivering. I think that courage is what inspires me the most to actually go on to and it happened with us as well, right? Like every time somebody came in, they looked at the market, and most VCs would tell us, boss, you have reached the pinnacle of how much the bike this market can grow, and it is happening since the first round itself, right? So every time we go to another VC, they're like, oh, how much more are you going to grow? How much more? And I think the growth keeps coming in.
Yeah.
And I think the courage to actually go and make an impact that really inspires me about it.
Great. Sumedh,
I believe that I will, in my lifetime, I would never be able to name one role model, because what has happened, at least with me, is coming from a
Yeah,
small
Sumedh, we
town.
are three co-founders, so I mean, naming one wouldn't.
So it kept changing, and I personally believe, whenever I get a chance to go on a talk show, I always tell the same thing, was don't anchor yourself to a role model, or don't anchor yourself to a thought, because your today's thought you are going to contradict tomorrow. And don't be ashamed of it. It's fine. You have grown as a person, and it's fine. Your perspective 5 year back and today is very different. Provided I anchored myself to role model I had back in my childhood or back in my college days, I would have not reached where I am. It kept changing. It kept changing, and each stage of life, you get attracted to different thoughts. Probably I'm not contented now. That's the reason I'm aggressive. I'm growing. Tomorrow I get to a spiritual guy and I start, was calm me down, give me that peace. I don't know how this life will turn up
yeah.
in next 5 to 10 years, but for sure I don't have a role model in my life. I just keep getting inspired from the people I meet, like you, people I meet like Sandeep, people I meet like recently we have started the engagement with multiple consulting firms in the country, and you get inspired from everyone, and you start learning the stories of their life, and then you start getting into it, because what may have happened this. And in fact, my today's post is exactly on the same thing. You cannot take just the things what you get from your anchors, or like from your role models or your mentors. You have to refine yourself, and you have to take the juice out of it the way you want to perceive. Because for me, I'm a unique person, and same way Adi and you are, and there's no chance we will take the same thing, same conversation in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we duplicate any life? There's no possibility. So that's how I see at role model.
No, thank you guys. Look, this has been an extremely fun this has been an extremely fun podcast, one of the most fun podcasts like I've also been on. And I really love the maturity that like at least the two of you all are bringing to this business as founders. It actually seems like I'm speaking to pretty seasoned business leaders. Just the thought processes and the things that you all have spoken to me about. So look, it's been amazing. We're enjoying like our journey with you guys. Really looking forward to more conversations like this. But thank you so much for taking the time out and being on this podcast with me. And we will chat soon.
Thank you so much, Karan. To all the viewers, would love to invite you to our facility. Anytime they are in Pune, they can definitely drop down to EMotorad's facility, get a first-hand experience of how an electric bicycle is made. It's open for everyone who want to visit us. And thank you so much for having both of us on the show.
Thank you, Aditya. Thanks, Sumedh.
Thanks, Karan. Bye.
And
Bye.